It's not so easy, perhaps, to explain Nichiren and Shoshu Buddhism or probably any other religion in a few words, but perhaps the best way I can do it is to just concentrate on the two main effects of this practice. The first one is what we call, for want of a better term, a human revolution within oneself. That is to say, through the power of the practice at work in one's life, you find you can transform the negative and destructive impulses that exist in us all as human beings, and actually transform them into positive and valuable actions in terms of thoughts, words, and deeds. So this brings one then to an understanding of the other main purpose of the practice, which is that even one individual who carries out this inner revolution is able also to change their circumstances and environment, because the change within themselves inevitably is reflected into your environment, and in turn this brings about change in everything around you. Oh, this practice has benefited my life enormously, and is still continuing to do so, and I'm sure will continue to do so until my last gasp, because the force that is actually doing it is what we call fundamental life force, which exists in all of us, but often isn't working freely. So the purpose of this practice itself is to release this life force so that it can flow freely. Things like tension and anger or worry, anxiety, poor health, all these things stifle life force. So through the practice of chanting, this life force is freed, and it brings about a very immediate change in your life. And I remember one of my first experiences was going to negotiate with two people I was dealing with who had always been immensely difficult. And to my astonishment, I found that this particular negotiation went through so smoothly and they were so pleasant. So I remember going and talking to someone about this first experience I'd had after I started to practice. And I said, you know, they've really completely changed. And the Japanese man I was talking to waved his finger at me and said, it's not them that have changed, Mr. Causton, it's you that's changed. And through that brought about the change in them. When you're very little, young, your life force does run freely. It's only as you begin to become aware or self-conscious that the tensions and anxieties, inner tensions and anxieties, begin to start to interfere with the flow of your natural life. I mean by that, for instance, teenager becomes often these days more and more tense because they're worrying what other people are thinking about them. A young child doesn't worry about that. This is quite natural because life has within it, as I said earlier, both negative and positive tendencies. And it's very easy for the negative to take charge of one's life. And the Buddhist philosophy teaches you that in the end, you're responsible for everything in your life, past, present, and future. I think once people expand their minds and realize that what they're going through isn't necessarily the result of a course they made earlier in this life or even in their last life, it may be, you know, something that goes back thousands and thousands of lifetimes. But nevertheless, they do begin to realize that there is a tendency in their life to make such causes. In other words, when you think you can blame everything else for your circumstances, it means you don't look at yourself. I think it's very true that a lot of old people, or people as they get older, suffer from regrets about things they've done in the past, or that the things that they have not done and wish they could have done. But Buddhism is really teaching you all the time that it's no good crying over spilt milk. Where's it going to get you? All it does is make you unhappy. A lot of people fear death and find it very scary. But I've practiced Buddhism now for 20 years, and I'm totally, personally believe in the Buddhist teaching of death. Therefore, I have absolutely no fear about death. In fact, as I grow older, I begin more and more to look forward to my next life.